Welcome, all those who wander back to Trekyards. I am Captain Foley.
I'm Connor Coggins.
We're here today to talk about episode 9 of season 1 of Strange New Worlds, which is called All Those Who Wander. Wow, what a coincidence. That's how I always do my openings, and it's just the title of this episode.
I'm kind of shocked it's not a direct two-parter. I kind of thought that's what they were implying. So when it ended, I was like, oh, it's a one-parter. Cool, okay. Normally you kind of end a season with some of the strongest stuff. That's kind of conventionally what you try and do. So what do you think of episode 9 then, Stuart?
I thought it was really great. It was very much a horror-type episode, though. Kind of a mix between Predator and Alien.
Mm-hmm.
And we got a new ship. The Sombra class, which is built with Constitution-class parts.
Identical in every way.
Yep, except it has a crew of 99.
At the end when it's being tracked beamed, I was so excited it'd be a small ship. It's the exact same size.
Yeah.
I know they thought, well, we can't have one of the 12 Connies be destroyed. Let's invent a non-Connie and call it something else and have it be destroyed. It's like, right.
That was just lazy.
Yep. Real bad.
Change the struts or something.
Do anything to the exterior. As the ship guys, we were excited for another Connie, like the Farragut or the Constellation, and so they really massively dropped the ship ball on this one.
Anyway, that covers the ship part.
Yep.
Interesting episode, especially with Spock. The whole letting go of the emotions thing.
Mm-hmm.
And what a surprise with Hemmer. I mean, what the hell, man? Spoilers, by the way, guys.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I did not see that coming.
Something about the tone let me think not everyone was safe. And the fact we also lost La'an showed we really weren't safe as a crew. So there's definitely a shake-up the season episode. You can't really be more transparent to introduce new ensigns / lieutenants, except they're cannon fodder. It's all good, but it's not obvious, you know.
Yeah, Ensign Chai and the other guy that got promoted to lieutenant, they didn't last too long, which is a bit of a shame. I bet you Pike feels bad about that mission. Sure, I'll take the ensigns on one final mission.
A road trip, yeah.
No kidding. Yeah, load up the station wagon. It was a good episode. I really did enjoy it. It'll be interesting to see what next week is like, considering that now we're missing 2 crewmen. Yeah, I don't know if it's going to be like a sequel to follow up to this one with following La'an, on her adventure. Other than that, I was ashamed we didn't get to see K7. I wish we would have saw K7 because that was a thing that was happening. Those power cells that need to be delivered would have been cool to at least have something to see of K7, but at least it's a touchstone. How about you? What did you think of this episode?
So I thought I liked it more, and I think I liked it a little bit less as it went on, mostly because it kind of establishes its pace and then stays in setup mode for a very long time, and then when the creatures come in, it's great. Because they're a mixture of puppets and CG, they're limited in how they can use them, so they never quite have a death, I'm going to kill you feel, despite killing the people. They don't quite come across as the menace in the same way. Clearly inspired off Aliens and Prometheus. I mean, you can't go more Aliens, really, than these have now gone. I mean, they're almost spitting image of the Prometheans when they burst out. I mean, backbursters. I mean, Gorn's are Aliens now. And so, but those become very big very quickly, and when they go through the vents, they have a presence. Tiny ones have no presence. Especially if they can kill you instantly, it becomes everyone can die, no one can die, they're too easy to win, and then just being defeated by cold. It's kind of like the Orville episode when we show these new creatures. The interesting bit is when they're intelligent at the end. So for the Gorn to be hyper intelligent and yet fully act like monsters, I was waiting for a moment at the end where it, basically goes from being a 4-legged to a 2-legged, like it's finally got into that phase, and then doesn't attack the crate and does something smart. So I was waiting for that sort of, because they're spacefaring creatures. So just for them to be alien animals was a letdown for me personally, because they were leading into, they're very smart. No, they weren't. They were incredibly dumb, super easy to kill, even though they were menacing. They were just aliens. So I was waiting for it to be more 3-dimensional. So like I said, the start was really solid. The ship was bad. Setup was bad. Any other ship from the outside, the sets would have been the same. But it was good, but it didn't quite live up to its own potential, I think. And obviously it's hard to kind of rectify this with later Star Trek, with we don't know who the Gorns are really. They know who the Gorns are really. They see them, they fight them, they have bodies, they have DNA, they know how they reproduce. there's so much information here that the mystique is almost entirely gone just from one pre-TOS episode. So I don't know what happens between now and TOS to lose all the information on the Gorn, because that's what it kind of feels like.
They're going to say, we've never seen an adult Gorn.
Well, Lan has. She knows all about them. Which, in fairness, getting around and out of the show, I mean, takes away that, you have one survivor. But my God, to even have Newt parallels, I mean, you can't really get more alien. They sort of abandoned her at a certain point. I thought they were going to have a really good twist where she's letting them, like she's working with the Gorn, and she knew the guy was a incubator, and she's actively helping them. I thought that would be a really great twist. The opposite of Lan, who escaped because she was let slip, whereas because the Federation now fighting the Gorn more, she was deliberately a plant. I thought that would have been, but they just kind of drop off a cliff with her character at a certain point. So there's a few moments of, I thought they were going to twist the story, but it kind of kept the same pace the whole time, and it got less interesting for me as it went on.
The way the episode was framed was to keep you constantly on edge. So the setup and just feeling like you're always in setup mode. I never thought about that.
Yes.
But now that you said it, it's like, it's true. But I think that's part of the plan, to kind of keep you on edge the whole time.
And obviously, this is me in cinematic filmmaker brain, what I would do to kind of enhance it further. Because if it was intentional, fine. But often these episodes kind of don't... The pace needs to kind of shift throughout, and it never quite did. Although, boy, what a resilient ship that it can crash without any visible damage except one nacelle, be fully functioning after like 20 minutes of repairs, which implies why wasn't the other guys repairing it. I guess Hem's a genius, but there are other geniuses. I mean, he can't be that much better than everyone. Most people aren't. But yet they turn the power on, but the lights aren't on. At least they repainted the bridge blue. Yeah, the consoles are blue, and the L cars are blue. But it's barely, I absolutely love the conceit of using the same ship interiors. It works fine in TOS, but you need to either have it be a Connie or a new class of ship. Both work better than an identical not Connie, because it was identical. And the easiest thing is to change the 3D model at the end. It's the easiest thing.
Yeah. And I love that Captain Pike has the default command code of 246810, and Mbanga calls him out on it. You haven't changed that yet? That was kind of funny, because when I heard 246810, I'm like, seriously, that's your code?
But it was definitely a big ensemble piece. Everyone got a lot by literally throwing Ortega's and number one out of the story, 100%. And again, Ortega's completely underused, and number one as well, barely used. I mean, as from an ensemble cast, you don't give them much to do. And if they're living, remember this was filmed entirely in the pandemic, and so Rebecca Romaine was flown to Canada, put up in a hotel or rented a house for 6 to 8 months, and then she was on set, one day every 2 weeks, except a couple of episodes. And all this time they're locked in their hotel rooms or their rooms the entire time. So you wonder how much of the months she was just waiting in her room, waiting for a few lines. It's really kind of sad how little they were used. That said, then you get into stuff with La'an and her. Obviously, they're given the depth to it to be a satisfying payoff. Although I don't quite think that the moment at the end where Uhura looks at the consoles earned it anyway, because she didn't do any communication stuff this episode to justify her sudden interest, and Hema didn't say, your thing is communications. So I don't know why she suddenly thought, I'll be communications. I thought that was entirely unearned. When, as you said a minute ago, the last shot should have been them orbiting K7 with a Klingon D7 in the background, or D6, like an epic ending shot to kind of like give the fans like, oh my god, wow, this is cool. We rescued K7. I don't know what you thought about the Uhura moment, because I thought it was a big, big misstep.
Yeah, I didn't quite buy the whole Uhura thing. I love that, her relationship with Hemmer had kind of been established.
Yeah.
And I was really hoping that they would try to stop him in some way. But her deciding to take his advice and find a family and, be somewhere where she's happy, and then looking at the communication console, I didn't quite buy any of that. I thought this was their way of getting rid of Uhura for a bit, and also Hemmer to bring in the new engineer that we see in where No Man has gone for a hot minute.
I was thinking she was going to leave as well, and then come back in season 2 as like I found my place, here I am. Or even there'd be a time jump between this week and next week, which would be fine with La'an. So I thought it was a pretty poor ending and just left me scratching my head. And Hemmer, I thought, was something about his use in this episode let me think he's not safe. Something about it. Just having him be on the planet in the first scene he's in and appreciate it's just his home planet. Although he says Andoria, not Enar. But I like that he dies on a sort of a place he's comfortable. 'Cause he has to live with you guys having warm rooms. Ugh. And he has to just enjoy the cold. I thought that was really quite sweet. Something we don't really think about. So that, getting to feel like he, because that visual was beautifully Andoria, it was lovely. That was a nice,
I just feel let down because we didn't get any time with him. He was decidedly absent from many episodes, and which would have, they're going to do that. With more time with him would have been great. But
well, not just that, but if his purpose of the season was to get her to be inspired, then he should have been with her in many, many episodes to be her mentor. They had one scene together, one episode together where we were both vaguely bored in those scenes. Yeah. And this was a lot better, but it wasn't. Yeah, it was strange. It was strange.
Mm-hmm. The other standout for me was La'an. I really did like her in this episode, actually. She wasn't too over the top, too gruff. Her character's really, really grown on me quite a bit. And it'll be interesting because we did do our top 10 favorite characters from Strange New Worlds earlier. We're going to do one at the end of the season. Mm-hmm. I was just thinking, wow, she's going to be bumped up in that list considerably now. Mm-hmm. So I just hope we get to see more of her. I hope she's not gone, but I don't think she is by the sounds of it. So,
but yeah, Lan was you kind of need the we know what happens to them characters, because if it's just all the primaries. There is no tension when Spock's fighting a Gorn because we know he's fine. That said, him fighting a Gorn feels so out of place when you look to TOS, and here he is sitting on the captain's chair, not thinking back to when he actively ran out a corridor, raking out his emotions, shooting a laser weapon at them. Like, Leonard Nimoy's not thinking that in Arena. He's not thinking back to the horrific moment when he watched a guy get killed by Baby Gorn, when his friend is fighting a Gorn. Like, that stuff is entirely ill-placed. And doesn't work. Let Sam Kirk do it. Let anybody except the main people do it. Like, Lose Emotion's great as a concept, but it doesn't play well, and it needs to play well because you're in this world.
That's a very good point, actually. I didn't think about that, but yeah, this had quite a huge impact on Spock, considering that he had to let that rage out, or let the rage into his heart, as he said.
Yep.
And that's still being an issue after the mission is over. You'd think there'd be some more going on with him in Arena for sure as a result.
And Uhura, who also watched people get killed, she now has one of her good friends, Hemmer, getting killed in Arena. She's like, oh, the Gorn are here. It's like, do you remember that guy that got killed because of Gorn eggs 10 years ago that you're already friends with and you were 7 or 8 space battles? That's the thing, though, because they had so many characters in this. Like, Chapel could have had that. Just swap the characters around slightly. Give very easily swap out Uhura for... Well, even number 1. I mean, just not have him be the characters they're in Arena, and you could do whatever the hell you wanted. So that was definitely them letting us down a little bit.
The one thing that bothered me was that they're remarkably fast and agile as young, and then they grow up to be very slow. But that could just be the planet they were on, that Arena happened on. But it's just a little bit of a disconnect there. I understand that things change as they get into adulthood. And
then also he's a space captain, so that's presumably quite old for rank. So maybe the older you get, the fatter and slower you get.
I also don't buy that it's a species like that, which you'd kind of alluded to earlier, which is very animalistic and fights to the death for Alpha, would ever be a spacefaring culture. Like, that just there's a super disconnect there. Absolutely.
Yeah, they've turned the Gorn into alien.
Yeah, xenomorphs. Yeah.
I mean, almost entirely, and I think there was spoilers for AVP2, but a pred alien was able to impregnate a human and make multiple baby xenomorph, and that's great. But if one, I mean, he's a big guy, so fair enough that you can argue more than one Gorn egg. But 4 eggs, and Lana knew exactly how many, and she was right, which implies that she's very well understanding. So 4 Gorn, but only one is ever going to survive, which by itself means that the species is self-mutilating, killing, and then that Gorn then is animalistic and wants to fight to the death and all this stuff. Like, I get they can't have it actually speak because we can't even translate. It would have been great if he spoke English by the end. That would have been a really nice twist. They're super dumb now. And that was big disappointment to me because all they are just aliens. Like, I'm not going to buy a ship flying and you see these CGI Gorn with, on all four, like this, and they're like controlling the, even the Xindi insectoids were four-legged and they were, they didn't have this animisticness. And I guess because they're young, but that's only so much of a conceit. 'Cause the gestation period is radically different from different races. It was, what do they say, very brief, weeks for an Orion, which is interesting, days for a human, and minutes for an Andorian, or a Xenar. Minutes, basically. Interesting. They didn't go as far as to say that each species creates a different version of a Gorn, which would have been literally xenomorphs, although that I think would have been a good twist, because then they could have actually had different versions of Gorn without any sort of canon-breaking thing, but then you're just making xenomorphs. There's nothing else to them, except they're green. And these aren't necessarily bad things, it just feels derivative, whereas the original Gorn were just intelligent dinosaur alligators. Now they're non-intelligent xenomorph with predator vision, and they just feel less now for some reason, and more deadly, I guess, but you just don't... Without the space travel bit, they're just creatures, and you can always take out creatures, whereas when they suddenly become space travel-y...
Yeah, I think they're damaging the Gorn quite a bit, and I don't think we're going to get an explanation for it ever. It's just going to be one of those things that we just have to live with, unfortunately, which, again, is a shame. But...
And it's weird because we got a very similar vibe in terms of Xindi insectoids when they were their little baby young, but they were really unique. They crawled up an archer and it was just all unique vibes, and these just feel like xenomorphs. We're going to do a video, Stuart, I'll compare them to xenomorphs because it's worth doing and they're very similar. And in the behind the scenes ready room, you get extremely clear views of the puppets, which they used a lot of, which I give them all credit for. So we've got very, very clear views of them now, and we can compare them to the main Gorn. I like the main villain, I get that. It's a good choice. But they need to set up the subspecies, subsets, or age makes a big difference. Or maybe say that, maybe have Lan say, oh, they're feral for the first year of their life, and only 1 in 100 Gorn survive. That's why they're breeding planets, because they impregnate thousands of people, only 100 live, and then it takes another year for them to become speechable, but then once they do that, they're very powerful. Like, that would have been a fun... But then obviously Shui would know too much, but Shui does know too much, so just go full on if you're going to go full on anyway.
Well, yeah, that's one thing that did make sense. The breeding planets or the ships, whatever they use for the hatcheries, makes a lot of sense in that case. They just come back and the ones that are surviving, they're the ones that survived, so they don't have to worry about anything like that.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, you just have 1,000 prisons, you just spray them all, you walk away. Whatever happens, happens.
Yeah, come back. You got the strongest ones for your crew.
Although. But surely, though, are they such that they kill their own brothers and sisters, but they won't fight amongst themselves for other alphas? Because if it's always fight to the strongest, one should live. If there's 100, one would be the best. Or is it, I'm going to kill only my brothers and respect my other non-brother... like, fight to the top is very specific.
Yeah, I got the impression there's only down to 1, so it doesn't matter.
Because then if you have a breeding planet with 1,000, if you get 1 at the end, that's a bit of a... Yeah, he's the strongest. But you just killed 999 Gorn babies. It's a bit gruesome. Now, what do you think about them explicitly saying that sensors can't detect them at all?
Made sense in the context of not being able to read them on the ship. However, you need to modify your sensors then. And even the link asking Hemmer, I know you have some reservations about this, but can you sense them at all? And he even couldn't. So they just need to modify their sensors to look for cold-blooded, whatever. Like now that they have the baby DNA, they should be able to at least incorporate that into the next wave of sensors, perhaps. I don't know, but it was a quickly said line that just explained why they weren't reading the life forms on the ship or in the bodies. Because I can't believe that Mbanga missed that, because that would be quite an anomaly. But.
Well, he did. We know he's not the best doctor. In none of the 10-9 episodes, he's been a very good doctor. So I don't think he's actually a very good doctor. He's not actually a genius like Hemmer, who's been shown to be a genius, and Uhura, who's been shown to be... that's fine. Yeah, it was an odd note, because everything can then be worked out to be defended against. The fact that Voyager can protect against temporal Krenim torpedoes is insane. Everything has a counter. So it's only a matter of time till you can scan them. But I think they were implying that they evolved to be resilient to sensor scans. But as soon as you work out how you scan them, you just scan them better. And then are they going to evolve again quicker? How do they know to evolve for electronic scans? It seemed very strange. Now, I get the fact that this is their first time truly fighting them, because they said no one ever survives them. This is their first time dealing with them full on. Now they can detect them because now they know, fine, this is your one go. But I don't buy for a second they evolve to be undetectable. So I liked them repairing the ship. That was good, it's fine, kept them all busy, great. But they kept harping on about internal communications being offline, and therefore they couldn't talk. But they all have communicators on their belts that work. If they're in the ship, now they did sort of say that the outside interference is stopping things from working, but if they're inside the ship, that should be protected. If the internal comm works, why wouldn't the communicators? They didn't even once try. I thought that was strange. I don't know why one would work and one wouldn't work. Communicators are pretty freaking powerful. They're designed to go a very long way, and you're inside the ship, which has shields, because they have force fields on. I don't know why they couldn't. And I just felt odd. They wanted to create tension, but everyone's got a phaser and a communicator at all times, so there should be a lot less threat value. But they kind of, do you know what I mean? They kind of forgot they had this tech. Did that occur to you at all?
It didn't actually. It's a big plot hole actually. Now you said it, I don't know why I didn't think of it actually. But yeah, it's just to ramp up that horror tension. Like you can't have any communication with anybody else essentially. And even Pike's announcement over the comm, like everybody reconfigure in the sick bay. It's like you should probably say more about that. He does say watch your six. You should probably elaborate a little more because not everybody's aware of what exactly has happened. I don't know. Just don't send people to an area of the ship without them knowing the situation, how dangerous it really is. Watch your six is just something you'd normally say in a situation that's kind of weird, you know? So
yeah, Pike was weirdly underserved. He wasn't, especially since he knows he can't die. You'd think they'd factor that into the story and have him be the guy that goes full force, because he can't die against a Gorn. He can't birth Gorn creatures. He knows he's immune, as in from fate. You know, especially after those other officers died, you'd think he would put himself forward. Again, another missed opportunity of I know he's a super powerful guy, but so is Spock, so is Uhura, so is, you know, half the characters can't die, but he knows he can't die. That would have been really great, especially as he could have like had a moment. Because I watched the Ready Room next week deals with his I know I have to die soon plot point again, which makes sense because it's the last episode. But it would have been amazing if he'd been the one rather than Na'an who ran at them, and something happened that legitimately injures him, and he says to himself, that was close. I can still get really freaking maimed. I might lose my legs but in the next 7 years get replacement legs. Like I might lose my lungs and have to deal in pain for 9 years. I don't know the in between, so I can't just throw my life into harm's way because the physical trauma of it might be too much for me to deal with now. But do you know what I mean? That could be a really interesting story beat of like he has to face. Well, he's not immortal. He's immortal, but he's not immune to injury.
And you don't want to lose 5 years of your life recovering from an injury
exactly.
when you only have 10 years left.
His spine's broken. That's 6 years of exactly that. I think would have been like if he'd had something, say the Gorn had slashed his spine, like I say, and then Megan says 1 centimeter to the left, he would have been paralyzed, but I would have recovered. He said, yeah, maybe after a decade of healing. Like that would have been a great thing to have, especially into the next episode. But so just a few small things that they could have done a little bit differently. But apart from that, I liked it. It was good. It just didn't quite meet up to the potential it could have had, and they certainly effed up with the ship exterior stuff massively.
Yeah. The somber cast was somber and disappointing.
It means that Star Trek Online Eaglemoss can make an identical ship model and sell it and call it a somber class, but it's faster.
Anyway, on that note, guys, comment down below what you thought about this episode. We do want to hear your thoughts. We really appreciate them, and we appreciate you guys. So make sure you subscribe to the channel. Help us out in that way. And also consider joining the channel and joining us for lives where you can help us out as well. Many different ways to help out your favorite Trek channel, Trekyards. I was going to say your favorite Trekyards channel, but that would be redundant. So,
but what isn't redundant is supporting us directly if you can. Patreon, monthly. Join the channel on YouTube, also monthly. One time donation at PayPal at trekyards@hotmail.com, or super chatting during those lives is a great way of doing support, because you can do any amount to any amount, small to big. Helps to keep the channel going. We need those sorts of support, and especially in the bad months where it's kind of hard to pay our rent, these things are super important. And speaking of supering, you can also super thanks in any video that we've ever made. If you really like what we do, you can put a super thanks, a super chat, but on an existing video. And you can, like I said, on this video and put your point heard and put it forward and put a support and say thanks. And yeah, thanks in advance for your thanks. Yeah.
That's right. So until next time, I'm Captain Foley.
I'm Connor Combs.
And we will see you guys soon.
Bye, guys.